really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker. What do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way. Close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo. Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, glorious day. Welcome in on this Monday. Thank you all for joining us in what is a busy show today. A lot of football for you, a big-time weekend recap. I don't know anything about WrestleMania in both days, so I think James is going to have to jump in a little bit later on and help us recap if you're interested in that. I don't know. Not sure, but James can update you on that too. NBA postseason without the Pacers. I will say that it sucks. However, we did get a little enthusiastic nod thanks to Orlando yesterday, because when the Pistons, when the toilet has issues, I'm down with it. I never really understood how any team can be, and I know that he has been a reasonably good player over his career. You win a championship when you lean a little bit on Tobias Harris. I don't know. I would question it. And it always seems like whenever you watch him on any team, wherever he's been, whether it's there or Philly, wherever, it always seems like that they lean on him in big moments, in which big moments he does not step up. And I know that it has nothing to do with yesterday. That's just a couple of thoughts in the last week, NBA-wise, that came to mind is I could not stand watching LaMelo Ball, so I was certainly glad that that ended. And all that ridiculousness with some of these NBA eggheads nationally felt that Charlotte could be this year's Pacer team. Yeah, okay. Yeah, all right. They could be just like the Pacers were a year ago. Yeah, not with that group. And then not with your so-called star player that is just brutal to watch. Your star player saying, oh, we called too many plays. Although it was kind of funny, sometimes I do agree that this whole calling a play every time down the floor gets a little tired, but they called too many plays. LaMelo Ball. So, yeah, LaMelo Ball and Tobias Harris. I don't know about this whole winning thing with either. Just a thought. So, yeah, we've had a nugget of NBA stuff, and certainly thank you very much to the Magic for that upset. I'm not a big fan of the Magic at all, but watching Detroit struggle yesterday for the most part in that fashion was pretty awesome. Here's what is so profoundly odd. And I understand why, but it is still odd. So we are leading up to the NFL draft. And I've got a show that is locked and loaded today with a number of guests, and the focus will be on drafting and the NFL, and that is great. But I gather, and I've said this for now the past couple of weeks, I just sent this out on a video. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of care from a Colts fan angle. And we can break this down a couple of different ways, or you could just tell me. I feel as if we have the finger on the pulse of the listeners out there. I sure as hell better after 25 plus years had something, the finger somewhere, good or bad. But if you're a Colts fan right now and you feel yourself incredibly detached, unusually this time of year detached, is it because we are talking about a team with no first rounder, and then everybody out there has sold most Colts fans on second round number 47 being traded down to secure another selection. Is that the reason why? Is that the reason behind it? Or is it more just your thoughts on the team in general? Because those are two different things. You can be detached. You can be out of sight, out of mind. Normally, if you don't have a first-round pick leading up to the first round of the draft, because all the hoopla, really all that has been charged with any high level of interest in this draft has been provided from Indiana University and its football program. That's the reason why anybody around here cares. I was talking to Rick Venturi on my way in, and we were going over any number of things. And I said, so number 47, what are we talking about here? And he said, well, for number 47, it's not really easy. I think I've looked up about 1,000 players, and it's really all the same dude. Now, I know that won't be proven accurate. Guys will be selected outside of the first round that will see initial success, and certainly we'll see some longer-term success. Not everybody, but some, a few, a handful, maybe less than a handful, whatever. But he's right. That is exactly how it feels. It feels kind of like, it could be one of how many? How do you zero in on that? Most people have zeroed in on, Anthony Hill, a couple of linebackers, two linebackers, one from Texas and Hill, and then, Golday out of Cincinnati has been another. Other than that, I think you get a lot of people talking about D'Angelo Pons. Why not, considering the circumstances of Kenny Moore II? Where Chris Ballard said earlier today that Kenny Moore II was more wanting out in this case. You think Kenny Moore II wants out because he wants to go someplace else where he feels as if, and this is another indictment, feels as if anywhere else he might be able to find. First of all, there's nobody in their right mind that is going to trade for him right now. When you know that ultimately, if there is no trade package available, he is just going to be cut loose and become a free agent. Why would you jack with it? For the same reason as to why they're not jacking with Anthony Richardson. You just wait. If you want to take a shot at that, you'll just wait to where it's not going to cost you any of your assets. But is Kenny Moore II one out because Kenny Moore II wants to go someplace where he can win right now, feels better about winning right now than this one? Or was it more about the usage, the coordination of Lou Anarumo defensively? Here's what's going to happen to Kenny Moore II, and I like Kenny a great deal, and I hope it doesn't, but I know fans all too well. So once he ends up someplace else and they put a microphone in his face and he tries his damnedest to say all the right things about this one, he has been a model. And he has been a model from somebody that had lower than zero expectations. And he transformed into a player. Now, Colts fans can say, well, he was a player in a group. Why should anybody care if these guys left? It's kind of similar to my Indiana State argument. Yeah, all you guys go ahead and transfer because I watched you and you guys sucked. Fans around here will say the same thing. All right, what results did this group get? Everybody loves Kenny Moore II because he's a good dude and he was a higher level player, but what has been accomplished? And that's something you're never, ever going to get out of the way of in this case. Is the lack of results. Or if you did have results, it was mediocrity or less. So with Kenny Moore II, is it more about wanting to go someplace where he feels that he has a better chance? Or is it because he wants to go someplace else where he's going to get more of a chance? Because clearly he didn't fit, or his game didn't fit, or where he is today with lack of game did not fit Lou Anarumo and his situation. I joke all the time that he's not from Cincinnati or a former Bengal, so likely he's not going to be back. But which one is it? Because there's a big difference there. Going into the season, the Colts feel that they can be what they were through the first 8+ weeks of the season before the Daniel Jones injury last year. maybe Kenny Moore II doesn't believe that. Is it more about that, or is it more about the fact he just wants to go someplace else where he feels his skill set can be utilized more than it was a year ago? As Chris Ballard mentioned, he feels that it's time to go. So why is it time to go? Why would you believe? It's out of curiosity. Why would you believe that? So, listen, I've got a multitude of questions for you on this Monday regarding this Colts. And the other one is, simply put, where you look at this Colts team right now, is your lack of interest in the draft based upon no first-round selection, or do you base it on the simple fact is everybody around here is crossing their fingers and hoping something will happen? When you have been through it so much in a similar set of circumstances that things don't happen, you're not buying it. And you kind of lose interest on it. Maybe you regain it once things get underway again. Because I can't, and maybe it is closer than I think in the rear view. I can't remember a time when people have been this disconnected with this draft around here. Which one is it to you? I'm not going to put this up in a poll question, but we can certainly ask. You can log on 317-239-1070 is the text line. If you want to send me a message, I shall read it. If you want to call, you can phone at the same number. That'd be just great. NBA postseason underway. I know I've noticed my Cincinnati Reds. I don't care. Reds fans are allowed to tout in April. Because what else do you have? Jack squat's what you have. I tout the Redlegs' success in April. And I'm not apologizing to a soul. Nobody. I'm interested enough to watch. Playing out in the cold in Minneapolis over the weekend, the one-run wins they've had this year, incredibly impressive so far. You're going to say, well, you're going to try to hang a banner for them in April. Yeah, if they wanted me to hang a banner in April, by God, I would. Seriously, I would hang one. JMV says you're a champion. Just hang that bad boy. I would be okay with it. Yeah, if you're asking about Anthony Richardson, too, it still sounds like that. And I do kind of get it. Because I see in social media where, hey, is it time? And you heard Will Haskett on our Love Heating and Air crosstalk, brought to you by Love Heating and Air, John and Chris Love, love-hvac.com. You heard in our crosstalk. He asked me if I believed or if I was interested in Riley Leonard. I don't know. Nothing really interests me until things matter. We've been down a similar path, and I'm talking about a path where the belief is, other than crossing your fingers and hoping that mediocrity will prevail, we've been down the same path a multitude of different ways. And it seems like one of those. When I use the term until further notice, it's true. Until further notice. There's not something you can sit here and talk, because if you're going to ask me right now, hell no, I don't have any deeply rooted belief that things all of a sudden are going to change. If you're looking for the lightning in the bottle scenario, you had that. You had that up until Pittsburgh, and then not so much. So that's a tough one to buy. And I constantly use until further notice. But getting back to Richardson for a moment, I kind of understand why. You have no suitors. You don't have to. So what the hell? You know it's going to come down to it, right? That's just how things go around here. At some point, it's going to come down to that. Alec Pierce, cleanup surgery is what they called it on his ankle. 3-month recovery time for that cleanup. And injury updates from Chris Ballard earlier today. The Achilles with Daniel Jones, as we talked about at the outset, he is progressing, whatever that means. We all are progressing. How are you progressing? I'm progressing nicely. So are you, hopefully. DeForest Buckner, he's making progress with the neck. Spencer Schrader, ACL, he's kicking again. You also have the nugget of the kicker, though. So you got a little backup with the nugget. And Wolin Wally. Looks like with the Liz Frank and the ACL are, according to Chris Ballard, they are nearing the end of rehab. Well, there you go. You are caught up with the Chris Ballard presser of a little bit earlier today. You're caught up in IndyCar. It is now on our sides, the month of May. It was Alex Palou yesterday. Palou, Rosenquist, and Dixon in Long Beach. Next up for everybody, the month of May. I will say this. Fox puts together a strong broadcast. They do that. And obviously on the radio network with Jake and Mark Janes and company right there, they do a strong broadcast too. We love that. But the Fox broadcast is nice. As I mentioned a little bit earlier, Celtics 123-91. That looks like the old Celtics. Actually, it looks like a new and improved Celtics. They had a bunch of dudes that were just dudes around them get better. And now Jason Tatum is back, and they're really good. You notice how some of their dudes, that's what you have to have happen. When you have a couple of stratospheric superstars, you have to have just like random dudes around you become more than random dudes. Shout out to Brad Stevens for locating, maturing, and evolving just random dudes into more significant dudes. They got that. 123-91. The Sixers aren't any good anyway, but yeah, no, I looked up Tobias Harris had 17. I never thought that Tobias Harris was going to be a part of anything that won anything. 112-101, the Magic steal game one into toilet. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I know it's difficult to watch. I know the foul baiting drives you nuts. I will constantly remind you of this. If you had a guy that was able to get that type of whistle, you would embrace it. And then everybody else would hate the Pacers and that person. Now, I would disagree with you a little bit there. I do like watching him play. Here's the thing. I have to draw the line at this. Going out there and leaning your body in and drawing contact, or what is called foul baiting, it does get old. But here's what really drives it home to me. The guy's the MVP. I mean, what the hell are you going to say? Whatever he's doing is working, and you and I would both do it in a half a second if it worked at that caliber. You wouldn't have to ask twice. You want to do, yeah. You want to do this right? Yes. Anyway, the thing that drives it home, and I really dislike, the falling down on any type, any sort of brush by, a fingernail on, a sneeze, a cough, a breath. If you do any of that near Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, he's going to fall down on the floor. At some point on a teammate, I know he's your MVP and he helps you out. At some point you go, hey, could you go ahead and get your ass up yourself? There's zero reason why you fell right there. Why am I Chet Holmgren? I'm not going to jog over there and get you up. Just get your ass up yourself. That's what drives me nuts. But I do get it. I get it. That is the major portion of his game. He's inside. He is out. He is crafty. He can shoot. He gets to his spot. He's strong with the ball. But his major threat is getting to the free throw line constantly. 119-94. The Suns are not worthy in that series. And the Spurs and the Blazers 111-98. Here's how you can tell. I know that they said they had something else planned. Here's how you can tell that there's not any belief in Portland. They're not even going to cobble together a T-shirt. Here's what I think. The shop in Broad Ripple and Carmel, can you come up with some playoff T-shirts for Portland fans since they're not going to have any? Everybody else that you make the postseason, here are your shirts. We're going to put we're not here. I believe that is a billionaire Texas owner that also owns the Carolina Hurricanes of the NHL, who are also right now the first round of the Stanley Cup playoffs. So the shop in Broad Ripple and Carmel, Brian and Alex, I'm going to put it to you. You guys need to create some shirts for Portland since ownership evidently will not allocate funds for it. So, yeah, they're going to do something else. What it really means is you guys are going to get your asses handed to you, and we're not going jack with it. No shirts for you. Everybody should be getting shirts. No shirts for you. I bet the Timbers, with the Portland Timbers and the MLS, they'd create some shirts, wouldn't they? Would they wear them? Scarves. Scarves? Scarf. What's the plural of scarf? Scarves? What is this, English class? This is English lit? 3 games later on tonight, Raptors, Cavaliers, Hawks, Knicks, Timberwolves, and Nuggets. Game 2, Cavs up a game on the Raptors. Game 2, the Knicks up a game on the Hawks. And if I were Jalen Johnson, I wouldn't want Jeff Teague talking about him anymore on his podcast because I think everything since he sucked. Send a note to Jeff Teague. No more conversation about my greatness until I actually do something worthy of that again. And sure as hell, not especially before game 2. Timberwolves and Nuggets game 2. That actually should be pretty good. 10:30 later on tonight with the Nuggets up a game. In that best of 7 first round. All right, I'm going to get to this a little bit later on. We got a busy show. Joe Koppel, shout out. I did this on Saturday night, the JMV Takeover, and did a Skype one and a shout out to friend and legend Bob Kevoian of the Bob and Tom Show. It all started way back in 1983 with the Q Zoo. If you're around here, if you're from around here, remember that vividly. It was a morning show that you just knew was different. I knew it was different where I grew up down in eastern Greene County. I was in 7th grade. And I remember the high schoolers would sit in the parking lot and listen to it. And then they would talk about it. And it was always a quest to get one of the Bob and Tom T-shirts or to get one of the Q95 Kick-Ass Rock and Roll. That was the ultimate. The Kick-Ass Rock and Roll or the Bob and Tom T-shirts. Either the bump and sticker or the T-shirts. It was a quest. And you knew right away that they had something special. Bob Kevoian and his partner, Tom Griswold. Well, it grew into something I'm sure they did not know it was going to, but something that will be special forever. Whether we're talking about Christy Lou, whom I love a great deal, Chick McGee. I think Josh Arnold is a part of it now. I think Jessica Hooker also is a part of it now, but this goes back to the early stages. Of course, Mark Patrick, friend of mine, so many different voices, made he already had a name, but was such a significant part of that show in those days too. And my friend, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus. Jimmy Mad Dog Matus will join us coming up at 4:30 today, and we will talk about the legacy and the legend. I don't know if I've ever seen a guy that immensely popular that nobody in social media, that we all know this to be true, it's normally a huge toilet, that nobody, and I mean nobody, had one bad thing to say. The impact of Bob Kevoian we will never see again. From the talent angle, And just from the human being visual, he had it all. Had it all. My man was as perfect as a radio person and as a human being. We will never see that again. And it sucks that we don't have him around any longer. But as I said on Saturday night on the JMV Takeover, you're always thinking about it from this angle too, is that like music, we have his laugh, his bits, his comedy, his wit. You always have that to go back to and to celebrate. And that's pretty damn special. We will miss Bob Kevoian, the personality, but we will miss Bob Kevoian, the person, the human being, the most. Dog will join us coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, and there's probably not anybody around that can explain. Dog had an incredible 40-year relationship with Bob. And Dog, who obviously you know this, I have patterned my entire gig. I told Dog that yesterday. My entire gig has been patterned off of him. I love Dog. I'm going to talk to Dog about his friend, our friend, and the life of Bob Kevoian coming up at 4:30 today. Ben Solak of ESPN, Stephen Holder of ESPN, Duraco of ESPN. A lot of football and a tremendous life led. The focus of the Monday discussion, the Stream the App, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. I do not want you guys going anywhere. It's a Monday hang, bright and sunshiny day, downtown Indianapolis. Stay right there. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John here for Rhino Shield. Never, ever, 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 ever paint your house again. Seriously, you've been outside and you've noticed there's some cracks and hey, I got to deal with that. Go Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield, ceramic coating specifically formulated for this unique climate. And there's nothing more unique. Hey, it's 85 one day, it's 35 the other. That is the unique climate and the ceramic coating that has been dealt with courtesy of our friends at Rhino Shield. Over 1,100 colors that will satisfy. A 25-year transferable warranty. Residential or commercial, Rhino Shield at 888 Rhino 41. You do this right now. You mentioned my name. They're going to give you 15% off the regular price. 888 Rhino 41. 15% off the regular price if you mention my name. 888 Rhino 41. That's rhinoshieldin.com. Residential and commercial. Don't paint, no vinyl. Go Rhino and never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
The Ride with JMV.
We're not going to fall for a banana in the tailpipe.
You're not gonna fall for the banana in the tailpipe?
It should be more natural, brother. It should flow out like this. Look, man, I ain't falling for no banana in my tailpipe.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, I mentioned the 7-4 win by the Reds with a sweep over the Twins in Minneapolis over the weekend. They're on the road. Tampa, beginning later on tonight. Cubs a winner 2-1-10 yesterday over the Mets. Did the crappy Cardinals win? Yeah, unfortunately they won. 7-5-10 in Houston. That sucks. White Sox a winner yesterday, too. Phillies, Cubs, 7:40 later on tonight. Cardinals and Marlins in Miami, as I mentioned, too. Reds and Rays down in Tampa tonight at 6:40. All of Major League Baseball, you got 3 games, of course, going on in the NBA postseason. Round number 1, all 3 are game 2s. And the Stanley Cup playoff. This is my first real introduction to it. And I watched the entirety of the Canadiens and the Lightning yesterday. I don't know if I should be thanked for that or what. Somewhere, Bob Kravitz has a sports arousal. I'll give you my thoughts and input on that coming up. Meantime, on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, the NFL draft awaits later on this week. Rounds 1 and 2, of course. Not until number 2 for the Colts. At least will be on the clock as of right now. Number 47 overall from ESPN and ESPN.com. He is our good friend that covers the NFL and the AFC South. Mike DeRocco is with us. So is there anything, you've seen enough of Kenny Moore II in your existence. Is there a fit, a team with a fit you feel that is out there for him as he clearly wants to move on from this Colts team now?
Oh, wow. Hadn't even thought about that, to be honest with you.
Well, that's what I'm here for, is to bring up stuff you haven't thought about. Yeah.
Exactly. I don't even know how to answer that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
So I would have to punt on that one. I am really sorry.
That's okay. Okay, I'll get away from Kenny Moore because that was a bad start by me right here. When you look at the Colts, I've mentioned this, there's a very lack of excitement and connection going into this draft, unlike I've seen it around here in a while. Would you view this more with the Colts as a franchise fan base right now because they don't have a first-round selection and they utilize what they had with Sauce Gardner at the NFL trade deadline last October or November, I should say, or would it be more about the fact that this fan base kind of feels like it's going down a similar path as we've seen here?
I actually kind of think it's the same here in Jacksonville. There's just no buzz. There's no enthusiasm. You know what I mean? The Jags don't pick till 56. So I think it's just it's not supposed to be a great draft anyway. And I just think the fans are from both teams are just sort of going, you know what? I don't have any feel for who they're going to take at 56 or what did you say? The Colts were at 47?
47.
47?
Yeah.
47. Yeah. It's hard to get a feel on who's going to be available, who you like as a fan, who you'd want to see them draft because, you don't know. And someone was asking me the other day, who do you think they're going to take? And I'm like, well, there's 55 guys that are going to be taken before the Jags. I can tell you what position group I think they're going to address potentially with that spot, but it's hard to get excited when you can't really attach a name to your team because, all these first-round mock drafts, you see all the names with the team, and if you're like the Panthers, for example, and the Sadiq kid, the tight end, gets sort of mocked to you guys a ton, you can kind of get excited about that because you can go look up, you can go look highlights up, you can go read about. But when they're picking so late, it's just hard for – and most fans probably don't have any real familiarity with any of the players that will probably go in the second half of the second round anyway. So I think that's part of it more than anything else.
I will say this, though. At least the fan base in Jacksonville, you can lean on feeling as if you're on the upward pattern and going in the right direction here. That's why I mentioned it just kind of feels like the same old thing, and you just cross your fingers and you hope really on everything, all the major issues with this Colts team. It just seems like you're crossing your fingers and you're hoping, and there's not much belief there.
No, I see that a little bit, and I'm sure that there's a large segment too that doesn't trust the whole Daniel Jones thing either. They were sort of in no win situation there. Have to bring him back. But I'll say this: I think fan bases, as a general rule, they're. I can talk from the experience of the Jags fan base. Like, they had a lot of success last year for sure. 13-4, probably should have won the playoff game, but didn't. But there's this feeling of, is the other shoe going to drop? Because the last several times that they've had some success, the following year was a mess. 2023 was a mess. 2018 was a mess. So there's this feeling that this is going to all fall apart. And I think from the Colts fan standpoint, I mean, and this is just me, obviously, from afar, I kind of get the sense that they're looking at this as it started to fall apart last year. I'm not sure that it's going to be any better. And when you have a fan base that doesn't know or doesn't have a feel for whether their team is going to be any better, that's just a bad place to be in the offseason, especially if there's no first-round pick to kind of get you excited about anything. So, look, I don't – it all depends on how well Daniel Jones plays, and I think by the end of the year or by the time that he got hurt last year, he was starting to falter a little bit. But, this is the eternal optimism time of the year, and I'm just not feeling it from the Jags fan base either, to be honest with you.
I think that's a little strange. Around here, it feels right. Because I think that should be ordinarily what I would believe out of the Colts fans. But Jacksonville would seem a little bit different. Mike DeRocco's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So coming back from an Achilles injury, had a great season run up until the rest of his campaign was compromised. Are you a year two here believer in a healthy Daniel Jones? Are you in a solid belief pattern for him?
I think Daniel Jones is okay. And I think Daniel Jones, if you surround him with some good players and you have a running game with him, then I think Daniel Jones is a solid NFL quarterback. I don't think he's anything special. I think I don't know that he's going to be a guy that's going to be able to win you a ton of games on his own and carry you for a stretch like 3 or 4 weeks or 5 weeks in a row. I think Jonathan Taylor's that guy for sure. He can carry that team. But look, you could do a heck of a lot worse than Daniel Jones. And I know that because I've watched guys that are way worse than Daniel Jones flounder around this city for a long, long time.
Well, yeah, you have seen that before. So does Liam Cohen make it down there to you any different than some of those past experiences you described?
I think so, but here's the deal. The same feeling of this team the last time it's had success has fallen apart the last 2 times. There's a little bit of that with Trevor Lawrence, too. I mean, he had the really good year the second half of the year of 2022, and then started off 2023, and he was just okay, and then gets hurt, and then it all falls apart. So last year, first part of the year, he was okay, had some issues, finally got rolling in the second half of the year. So there's a sense of, can he stay hot? The talk today, we talked to Liam Cohen and Trevor Lawrence today started the off-season conditioning program, and it was, hey, we need to pick up where Trevor Lawrence needs to pick up where he left off in terms of ownership of the offense, understanding everything that needs to get done, and instead of having to build to that. So that's going to be the key for them. Now, I do think Liam Cohen is a fantastic play caller. And I do think he has a real good knack for disguising things and a real good knack for understanding what his guys do really, really well and not asking them to do stuff that they don't do really well. So I'm optimistic down here that this is going to be a good year. I don't know if it's 13 wins, but I'm kind of optimistic that they're going to be a playoff team again because I just think that he's such a good game day guy. And that's a highly underrated skill. And I just think that this team has some pieces in place. They've got obviously some issues they've got to deal with, but I just kind of like the way he handles this team. And I like the fact that, this offense gives so many answers. Baker Mayfield talked about it a little bit a couple years ago when he was in Tampa with Liam Cohen. The quarterback goes up to the line of scrimmage, and there's an answer for everything he sees. And I think that's a huge, huge benefit. And maybe we'll see Trevor Lawrence continue where he was, but there's a little bit, like I said, of skepticism that he can kind of stay on the roll.
We just saw Anderson get a big raise down in Houston, and there's skepticism involving their quarterback as well. Where are you with C.J. Stroud coming off of that playoff disappointment of a year ago? Is he going to re-legitimize or maybe dealing with the same thing offensively under center with the Texans this season? What's your expectation?
Yeah, that one's a little bit different to me because it's been really good rookie year, and then it's been a steady decline. You know, you can I'm always of the opinion that a lot of guys, rookies, they come into the league and they have success, especially at quarterback. Okay, now everybody's got some tape on you. Now everybody has seen you for a year. I expect them to struggle a little bit in year two. And then I expect them to adjust and then be better. And I didn't see that out of C.J. Stroud last year at all. The playoffs were horrific. I mean, he was doing things that you'd expect out of a rookie, undrafted free agent thrust into the starting lineup in week 2 because 4 guys got hurt. I mean, you just can't throw the football up. I mean, he's been in the league 3 years. You can't do that. That's just ridiculous. So I don't have a whole lot of expectation for him to be significantly better than he was last year. And he has to be, because that defense will only carry them so far, as we saw in the playoffs.
All right, so go do your research on Kenny Moore II and teams he could possibly be much better on. My bad on the initial question right there. Bad host. I get a D- for that question.
You're good. I will do my research, and I will call you tomorrow. And tell you.
Well, we're going to get a hold of you next week to see where the hell we are with all this anyway. So, Mike, you're a go-to resource for it. We appreciate you more than you know.
Thanks for having me.
It's Mike DeRocco of ESPN at ESPN.com. Hey, thanks a lot, Jack Stick, for the side-swiping with the Kenny Moore II opening question. Nobody cares, and I get this. There's got to be at least one hockey fan out there. If I give you a quick thumbnail sketch of one NHL playoff game over the weekend, I want you to give me a letter grade on what you believe me to know about the game of hockey. Can I fool anybody on it? But you got to be a little bit more hardcore hockey than me. It's not going to take very long, so don't worry about it. We'll do that coming up on the other side. Just really quickly. It's like a test for me. Make it pass-fail. I'm much better on pass-fail. I don't know if I need – that wouldn't be – the letter grade. We'll go with the letter grade. Because that was like the first time I watched the entire thing. Got that. Ben Solak, top of the hour on the NFL draft, his breakdown of it, too. Stephen Holder coming up. Chris Ballard met with the media. Stephen Holder was over there, too, of ESPN. He joins us after 5. We got stuff to give away, James? James says, thumbs up, stuff to give away. Tell me all about it, sir.
We have got tickets to see Satch Vai Band, so it's Joe Satriani and Steve Vai.
Well, hell
with
yeah.
Special guests, Animal as leaders, and that's on Saturday, May 9th at Everwise.
We got to give that away coming up a little bit later on, too. And my good friend and yours, the epic, the iconic Jimmy Mad Dog Matus, coming up at 4:30 today. 4:20, James, start carving out some good weed songs. 420s today. Did you forget about that? That you probably already celebrated this morning, haven't you?
I honestly didn't even think about it.
Come on, man. You're like the billboard of 420 in there. 420 celebrating re-entries on the other side, too. Sit tight. AAA Membership Lounge, YouTube Live. Back with you next. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hello there, I'm JMV. If you're considering buying a watch, you need to know one name. Moyer Fine Jewelers. If they were like JMV, it would be MFJ. Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. Moyer is the watch store, whether you're looking for that entry-level luxury watch starting at around $700 or maybe chasing around the iconic piece worth several thousand. Moyer has hundreds for you to choose from. An authorized dealer for 23 watch brands and just the Midwest's most incredible collection of pre-owned Rolex. Building that collection, your search is over. That is Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. For that luxury watch, they've got it for you, too. The heavy-hitting luxury brands like Omega, Breitling, Grand Seiko, Hublot, and the boutique brands like Fears, Nevada Grinchen, Chronoswiss, and the Midwest's most impressive selection of pre-owned Rolex. More selection, more expertise, and a guaranteed better experience. That's Dan and Lauren and my friends at Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. Tell them I sent you. 146th Street in Carmel. It's MoyerFineJewelers.com, MoyerFineJewelers.com. I've got a great idea for you, JMV, for if you're looking for a new vehicle. My friend Eric Wilson, Indiana's best, Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st, State Road 37 in Fishers, and a shout-out to the Buick Enclave, and a shout-out going on right now. Are you ready? You're going to find this at Indiana's best. SUV sales event going on right now, and the Enclave is a part of it. They've got many models to choose from. And the Enclave is state of the art. You will love driving it. And check out the SUV sales event going on right now. And you'll find it with my friend Eric Wilson and Rob and the gang at Indiana's Best. Here's your car buying experience. Everything you need at one place. Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st State Road 37 in Fishers.
The Ride with JMV.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Oh. A little 420 re-entry right here. Remain calm. All is well. 420 on 420 is going to be a celebration for us all. This is my good weed voice right here. Hey. Hey, James, man, would you leave the zigzags?
I'm just impressed you know what zigzags are.
I know a little bit of everything. Well, wait a minute. That's not 420. 420 voices like this. When I have Ben Solak on, should I talk in my 420 voice?
Oh, absolutely.
It's my 420 voice. God, I love that song, though. All right, let me shake loose of the 420 just for a moment here. Canadians game one, round one of the Stanley Cup playoffs over the Lightning. And I've told you this, my son is a Montreal. I have no idea why. I'm not going to try to explain it. Montreal Canadiens fan. So he's working yesterday, and I'm at home. I watched the entire thing, and I was sending him updates as if he couldn't get them on his phone. But I said, yeah, don't jack with your phone. And then I thought, well, wait a minute. I'm sending updates on his phone. That really doesn't work. So Canadians win in OT 4-3. and I'm kind of learning all this stuff as I go along. What I gather is, if anybody else watched that, you could tell me if I'm wrong. It seemed like that the power plays were the difference, and the final 2-minute high-sticking penalty on the Lightning is what got the Canadians that Game 1 road ice win. It didn't seem like anybody on the power play, when it was 5-on-4, whomever it was, whether it was the Canadians or the Lightning, and I'm assuming this happens most of the time, but it was most prevalent. Yesterday, they could not stop a power play nosebleed. Neither one. And it came down to, simply put, that one final penalty. The high stick, I think it was a high stick to the neck. And the Canadians win. I thought that they did a little bit of what they did during the regular season. I guess the playoff, the overtime format is different, right? In the playoffs than it is in the regular season. I like the regular season one. Anyway, if there are any hockey fans out there that can tell me whether or not I'm onto something here, let me know. I was getting used to it. That was maybe the first hockey game I have watched outside of Team USA in Canada back in February in the Olympics. But the first NHL game I have watched in its entirety in a long, long time, maybe forever. Because I'll catch bits, and it's like a NASCAR race. I'll jump in, hey, there it is, and I'll turn it off. Hey, there it is. You do that with NASCAR. And you normally do that with any fringe sport. See, and this is why you can't be doing it with this show. You've got to stay right here. Right here. Any hockey fans, tell me whether that I'm on to something. And obviously, outside of the power play difference, and I'm going to butcher this name, right? His name is it Slavkovsky with the hat trick? Slavkovsky. And the Canadians up a game. Got more of that coming up later on tonight. By the way, too, Philly, Pittsburgh, Ottawa, Carolina, Minnesota, Dallas, and Anaheim, and the Oilers of Edmonton. My first ever hockey jersey was an Edmonton Oilers back in 1986. True story. I was going as Yari Curry, I think, in 1986. Not Gretzky, not Messier, but Yari Curry. Quick one, we'll come back. So Ben Solak coming up top of the hour, NFL draft guy for ESPN. Dog, an epic conversation with our friend Jimmy Mad Dog Matus, bottom of the 4. Stay right there. Don't leave. We're not switching around like this is NASCAR. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John here for the best in plumbing. Lance, local team, LD Smith Plumbing and Drains, 317-927-7186. Yes, heavy rainfall, saturated ground, water standing. You don't want it. Clear the drains in and around your foundation with LD Smith Plumbing and Drains, and also think about that sump pump. Sump pump and battery backup, all new, great deals can be had by the best in the business. Anything plumbing-wise, LD Smith Plumbing and Drains, 317-927-7186. Lance and his local team, they've helped me out for years. They will be the absolute best you've ever dealt with. The Plumbing Elite. I'm telling you, the best in the biz. LD Smith Plumbing and Drains. 317-927-7186 online. ldsmithplumbing.com.
The Ride with JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
So am I going to go with the 420 voice today or normal voice? One of the greatest weed references in film ever. And you can go with Up in Smoke has a great soundtrack too. Breakfast Club.
Oh.
Can you isolate John Bender's quote? I believe it was, "Hey, Ahab, how about my doobage?" when it was stuffed down the front of Anthony Michael Hall's pants. I believe it was, "Hey, Ahab, where's my doobage? How's my doobage?" It was a great quote. 420 on 420 is coming up, and we're joined now from ESPN. He is a draft guy, beyond draft guys. Ben Solak joins us. Hey, Ben, first time of the show here in Indy for you with us. I appreciate you more than you know. How are you?
Yeah.
The fruits of your labor come to fruition later on this week. You feeling good about it?
Oh, man, the water's looking nice at the fishing holes. The sun's coming out. The draft's going to happen. You aren't going to be able to find me with a GPS for a month. I can't wait.
Oh, man. Well, I want to start right here because we had not a similar situation, kind of, I guess, with the Lawrence deal over the weekend for the Bengals. Going for it right now. Ben, the Colts went for it back during the NFL trade deadline a year ago, and now they're sitting there at 47 with no first rounder. Of course, Sauce Gardner is their first rounder this year. How often does a deal like that, because we've got a couple to choose from that have had impact on this year's draft, how often do those deals work? And do you think that in this case, this is going to work out, at least in the short term, for the Colts?
So they can work out, right? The deal that comes to mind immediately is the Jalen Ramsey deal, where he goes from Jacksonville to the Rams, and that defensive addition helps propel the Rams into Super Bowl contention. Now, when they work, they tend to work on the very short term, right? They work right away. They are the final piece because you're selling so much important young talent when you trade away early picks, such that if they don't work right away, it's hard to then buttress the roster with, okay, but we have another first rounder coming and here's another star player. Well, no, you've already traded those picks away and you're spending big money on the extension that you gave that player. In the case of the Colts, they obviously didn't have to give Sauce the extension, so that makes things a little bit easier, but it's really difficult to have acquired Sauce and then to immediately get Daniel Jones injury into Sauce Gardner injury, because now you need Jones to be healthy to have the offense be what it was last year, and you need Sauce to be healthy to kind of provide the value you were paying for, and also you need to stay on the cutting edge, avoid a bunch of other pitfalls, so on and so forth. And so while it is possible, these sort of moves tend to be for the short-term immediate window, and the Colts missed that one. Now they have to try to find the second window. That's harder to do.
I kind of wonder do you believe that window to be shut and maybe incredibly difficult to reopen with the Colts with that in mind?
So I don't think it's shut, and I think a lot of us, national folks who like to, make fun of a Daniel Jones and question how solid of a quarterback he truly is. We were all quite doubtful that they were going to be able to keep up the blistering, record-setting offensive paces they had in the first half of last season. Now you've got a guy coming off of an Achilles injury, so again, it's tough to continue buying stock. But I do think that Shane Steichen, Daniel Jones, Jonathan Taylor, there's no reason this shouldn't be a good enough offense once Daniel Jones is fully back from the Achilles. It won't be by week 1, but it could be there by week 7, by week 8. So I still hold a candle for above average, top 10 NFL offense for the Colts in 2026 and beyond. I look at this defensive roster. Holy smokes, man. I mean, that's where you lose me, right? Is Lou Anarumo has been really good in his career, making a lot of chicken salad out of chicken you-know-what. But this is a pretty tall ask here, what the Colts have on defense.
So this is extreme, not chicken salad is what you're saying here, correct? Extreme?
Yeah. I mean, this is the linebacker position is going to come down to Akeem Davis-Gaither and Jalen Carley. Safety is going to be Hunter Warlers. This is just not a lot of premium players. If you have Charvarius Ward who's unable to go because of the concussion background, if you can't generate a pass rush, I just do not know how you scrape together league average defensive play from this group as it's currently constructed.
Ben Solak joins us. All right, let's see if we can do some scraping right here. Second round, number 47. They're in desperate need of help along the edge, defensive line, and certainly a linebacker, as you just described. Is there logically, in your opinion, talent there that they could get, that they could lean on right away to play? Because it sounds impossible to me. What say you?
Yeah, I think that if you get Jacob Rodriguez there from Texas Tech at 47, you are screaming, you're bringing the card in, you are thrilled. That's very much so a Lou Anarumo-style linebacker because he's equally valuable running against the pass. He's a playmaking sort of a guy. He finds the football, but he's also quite high football IQ. And that's really the important thing for Lou's defense. You got to know what you're looking at. You got to be able to communicate. He's an ex-high school to college quarterback, so he's really strong communication skills. That, to me, is like a run-it-in sort of a pick. I do not think you will get Rodriguez that far down on the board, though. And that's when you start looking at an Anthony Hill out of Texas, who I think has the athletic profile you really like, but younger player, a little bit more inconsistent. I don't know if the football IQ is there for Lou Anarumo. C.J. Allen out of Georgia is a player who's a multi-year starter for Kirby Smart. They are thrilled there with his preparation. He walked in as a freshman. He's running the scout team. He has a lot of the intangibles. He did not test at any point in the process, and that's because I think he knows the testing would not have helped his stock. And so you're starting to get to more imperfect players when you get to 47. So if it's Rodriguez, it's a home run. If it's Hale or if it's Allen, I can see it, but that's going to, you got to be a little bit luckier with that pick.
Yeah, lucky indeed. There's no doubt about that. I was going to double back to what I mentioned kind of at the outset, Ben. We were talking about teams that are kind of going for it in the now, and it was trade deadline last year for the Colts. It was over the weekend for the Bengals, considering their circumstances and Lawrence. Do you like what they did?
Cincinnati, you mean?
Yeah, Cincinnati.
10 is a lot, I'll tell you, for a guy coming off a major elbow injury in 2024, a guy who's going to be a third contract player. You typically only see first-round picks traded for first to second contract players, rarely for a third contract player. So it's quite a lot. Now, excuse me, they desperately need help at defensive tackle. They got 2 rookie linebackers there. They need to protect those guys in the running game better than they did. And so Lawrence gives them a good profile, a good sort of strengths, weaknesses to what they need in that group. But it is a very steep ask for the caliber of a player you're getting at his age with his injury profile. So to me, a little bit too rich for my blood. I understand where they're going with it, though.
It is at Benjamin Solak. You can find him, NFL analyst on ESPN. And he's got everything locked and ready for this year's NFL draft. He's kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. You, of course, around here, you're thrilled with what happened with IU over the course of the season and that national championship team. What are your thoughts on Fernando Mendoza and his translation from what we witnessed last year with the Hoosiers as the Heisman Trophy winner and the national championship quarterback to what you would expect him to do at that level in the NFL?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great pro. I really do. I don't know if we're going to get a top 5 quarterback challenging Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert caliber of a guy, but that third tier, the Dak Prescott to C.J. Stroud to Trevor Lawrence sort of a tier of guys, that's where I expect him to land. And we just have a very well-rounded profile. Above average size, above average arm strength, remarkably above average accuracy. He's got good mobility. He's got a great pre-snap process, a great post-snap process, makes risk-averse decisions, protects the football. There's very little this guy doesn't do well on the field, and then off the field, he's intangibly rich. I mean, we've all heard the interviews. We've all heard about what he's done for his community. This guy cares very deeply about football, about doing it well, about handling himself like a professional, and about connecting with the team in the locker room. So it's hard to find the Achilles heel, the thing that's going to really break him in the league. Some of my colleagues at ESPN will talk a lot about the RPO rate there at college, and it was high. It was about 22%. But boy, I mean, this is college football. Everybody's running RPOs. If you get rid of RPOs and screens, Fernando Mendoza was first in the country last year in EPA per dropback, third in success rate. Right? I mean, when he didn't have to do it, he was still lights out. So what are we too concerned about? I think that it's a silly thing to still be talking about RPOs and under center dropbacks. Kind of 10 years after this issue's already been solved by the league. I think Mendoza's going to walk in, be pretty successful right away.
So some of your colleagues of ESPN have tried to, jump on the back of Ty Simpson, for example, the quarterback of Alabama, and give him the nod in comparison to that of Mendoza. To you, how much of a gap is there between those two draftable quarterbacks?
Substantial. Mendoza grades out for me as will be a starter, will be a plus starter. 32 teams, 32 systems, not an issue. Simpson grades out to me as can start if the system's correct, right? So we're talking more the Bo Nix, Brock Purdy caliber of a quarterback prospect. Nix obviously went 12 overall, but he was quarterback 6 in that class, in large part because this is not a complete profile. Like I said of Mendoza, it's hard to figure out the Achilles heel. With Simpson, it's not difficult. This is a 15-game starter. He got banged up because he's not the biggest body, and he has a play style where he takes a lot of hits. We're talking about good accuracy, but there's also some sprays. We're talking about enough of an arm, a live enough arm for the NFL, but not a remarkable arm, not an arm that gets you up out of your seat like Mendoza's. So there's physical limitations, and then there's a lack of experience, such that the play is very up and down. If he gets drafted by the Cardinals, right, it's Michael Furr's first season there, and they don't have a perfect offensive line. He's getting hit a lot in year one. They don't have a dominant wide receiver one. He's struggling to get beyond his first read. There's a world where he unspools and he spirals pretty quickly, right? When he takes his first snap starting, it's going to be a 16th career start. He's not a formed, confident quarterback yet. Now, there's still a high ceiling there, right? By the same token, he's inexperienced. He can get a lot better. You can round off a lot of those rough edges. And so there's reason to be excited about Simpson. If a team takes him late first round, I won't hate it at all. That's the going price for imperfect quarterbacks. But to me, Mendoza is a guy who goes top 5 every single year. Simpson's a guy who goes somewhere between 30 and 45 most years.
Hey, Ben, I want to go back to the Raiders situation with Mendoza and then Kirk Cousins, the veteran, already be there. Do you like the fact that they brought in Cousins as the guy that's going to help out the rookie quarterback in that situation? Because a lot of people have viewed that as about as good as it could get for that situation. Would you agree with them?
Yeah, it's a good situation. I think that when Kirk was in Atlanta and they drafted Michael Penix, they paid Kirk like he was going to be a starter, and then they shocked him with an 8th overall pick there at quarterback. And Kirk did not do the best job mentoring that young man, and deservedly so, because that was not what Kirk signed up to do. Kirk signed with the Raiders for what's functionally a 1-year, $13 million deal. That is backup money in the NFL, especially when you're a successful veteran like Kirk. That's about what a backup gets. And so he knows what he's there for. He's there to help Mendoza be the best starter he can be. I think the number one value he brings to Mendoza is some of the off-field and locker room stuff. You know, Mendoza's a goober, right? He's a bit of a dork. I say this as a dork myself. Kirk Cousins is a bit of a dork, and you got to learn how to manage the locker room, get the respect of the guys, be able to play to a lot of different personality types, a lot of different backgrounds when you have this dorkish quality to you, right? You got to be able to earn people's respect, and Kirk did that wonderfully over his NFL career, and I think he'll help Mendoza do so as well. Kirk also has good familiarity with the scheme and with the system, so he'll be able to help Mendoza, a little quasi-quarterbacks coach. I think it's a very good setup.
Shout out to the dorkish quality references right there. That's well done out of you right there.
These things.
And it's helped you get to where you are, and it's helped others get to where they're going. So why not, correct?
Absolutely. Listen, well, first overall is first overall. The boy can throw the football 60 yards down the field on the line. Nobody really cares about the personality after that, but it does matter sometimes.
Ben Solak joins us of ESPN. He's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Another player from the IU roster, Omar Cooper Jr., is to most going to go off the board at some point in round number 1. How do you think his game translates, and what team do you think is best suited for him in year 1 in the NFL, Ben?
Yeah, another extremely well-rounded player, right? And this is, I think, something that we're going to see consistently come out of Cignetti's program there, is that a lot of the guys that he champions and he puts in big positions are the guys who can do everything well. Cooper can block for you. He can create after the catch for you. He can separate short to intermediate for you. He can even stretch the field a little bit. He's really, really good with the ball in his hands. That's probably the best trait. He gets some comparisons to like Deebo Samuel and Rashee Rice at the NFL level. I think that's a little bit too rich for the sort of tackle breaker that he'll be, but he's a smooth athlete. He knows how to break the first angle and pick up a little bit of hidden yardage. He's not afraid of contact. He can make catches through contact as well. So that's a classic wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 in the NFL. And typically with those guys, we want to see them land somewhere where there's a lot of volume to earn, right? We don't want them to go somewhere where the wide receiver 1 and wide receiver 2 are already established, like the Rams. Because it's going to be hard for Cooper to get a ton of targets. And the way that he earns a quarterback's trust and becomes like an every down stick mover is by getting a lot of targets and earning the quarterback's trust. So I like him in a place like the Jets. I think that 16 for New York is really good. Number 2 to Garrett Wilson. He can play inside and outside, let you move Garrett Wilson around a little bit more. I also think the Steelers at 21 are a team to watch. They've been interested in Cooper over the course of the process. Now, they did trade for Michael Pittman, who's quite a similar player, a little bit bigger, can work underneath for you. And they extended him, too. But Pittman's 29, DK Metcalf's 29. They do need a little bit more young juice in the building, and Cooper's the guy they've had their eye on. So 16 to 21, to me, is about the range I expect for Cooper.
At Benjamin Solak, you can find him on X and social media platforms of ESPN. The draft analyst, Ben Solak's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. D'Angelo Ponds is what to you? Because there's been a little knock around with the Colts at 47 or wherever they're going to end up drafting. They may end up trading back on that. I would bet they might. But anyway, there's been some thought, considering the circumstances with Kenny Moore II, that D'Angelo Ponds could be a rookie fit in that respect. Would you agree, and where do you think he's going?
Absolutely, yes, I would agree. D'Angelo Ponds is a son of a gun, man. I mean, you can't not have a good time watching some D'Angelo Ponds film. And this is a high effort with unbelievable quick twitch ability. He's so rapid out of his breaks. He's got, again, great football IQ. Whenever I talk to Lou Anarumo defense, you got to know your stuff in zone coverage. And D'Angelo Ponds does. So, and they're for sure moving on from Kenny Moore. I like Ponds. I will say that, Ponds is 5'10", $180 soaking wet. But as far as feistiness goes, I'd give him a chance to die on the outside first before I force him to play nickel, right? If you think about what the Seahawks do with Devon Witherspoon, where they'll play him at nickel all the time, but when they're in base defense and only have two corners on the field, he's one of their two best corners. They play him outside, and they say, hey, we think he can hold up out here. I wouldn't be surprised if Pons has a similar sort of role in the NFL if he hits, where, yeah, he's the nickel with three corners on the field, but he's still one of your two best corners. You don't want him to leave the field in base defense. And so the Colts are a fit where they might have an outside spot if Ward medically retires, but they certainly have an inside spot. The Cowboys have been the team that I've been staring at this whole time. They already have Deron Bland there, who's kind of an inside-out versatility guy. You pair him with another inside-out versatility guy. That's Christian Parker, the new DC there. Comes from a Vic Fangio defense. You need your nickel in that defense to run and to hit and to tackle and to be aggressive. Pons is just so freaking fast to the contact point. He punches above his weight. So I like him a lot. Round 2 is my expectation for D'Angelo Pons. Probably the second half of it. That's where he should go.
Yeah, I think a lot of people like him as well. I think it's kind of interesting. Is he a good, solid comp to Kenny Moore II to you?
Yeah, I would say that Pons plays faster downhill and will be a little bit more risk-prone in coverage, whereas Prime Kenny can kind of run with anybody. Down the field, man coverage, zone, he was extremely solid. Pons will take more risks, whereas Kenny was a little bit more old reliable. But they're not dissimilar players in terms of the intelligence and the plays they make from zone coverage, especially on the ball, because they're really quick to close. They see it fast.
What do you think about Elijah Surratt's translation to the NFL?
Surratt kills me, man. He's a funny player. Surratt's entire game is, listen, I'm going to run 15 yards down the field, turn around. Just throw the ball. I mean, we're not dressing this up. We're not doing no release moves. I'm doing head fakes. I'm going to get down the field. I'm going to establish positioning in the low post, get that entry pass to me, and I'm going to move the sticks here. That player struggles to translate historically in the NFL. It's just a type and a role that we have seen the league value a lot less. It's just harder to bully NFL corners the way it is to bully college corners, even at the Big Ten level, even in the college football playoff. It's just a different weight class. Surratt can do some stuff in terms of the short releases and the slant game. He's so good catching through contact that he will get drafted middle rounds. I'm confident he will stick with the team. He will have a rookie contract in the league, but he's going to have to do something on special teams. And typically we see special teams receivers be bigger, faster players, guys who are like gunners that can go down the field and make a tackle on a punt. That's not really Surratt's game. And so he has to carve out a role in special teams or just be so valuable, so dominant as a wide receiver 3, wide receiver 4 that he earns a role in the offense despite the fact that he's not taking a lot of teams reps. And so he's a fun guy to bet on because he's so good at what he does well. But that post-up role just does not tend to be as big of a role in the NFL as it is in college.
All right, Ben, Jeremiah Love, numbers translation to the NFL. Is he going to be a big deal? And let's just say, for example, he ends up in Tennessee, like many believe. How much of a significant upgrade in year 2 for Cam Ward would you expect that to be if that comes to fruition?
Yeah, I mean, Love, I think, is going to be a really impactful back in the league. The thing about Love that really stands out relative to like an Ashton Genty who went to the Raiders last year at 6 is that Love can hit these home runs, right? We're talking about a player who routinely hit 20, 21 miles per hour at the college level, scoring 80-yard touchdowns, 90-yard touchdowns. When he gets to the third level, it's smoke, right? Like we're calling the play right there. It's done. And Genty didn't have that. And that explosive ability, I think, is going to allow Love to be more impactful behind a bad to mid offensive line than perhaps Genty was with the Raiders. Now, with that said, we should not be taking Jeremiah Love at 4 for the Titans. We have wide receiver needs. We have pass rusher needs. These are the premium positions where you want to draft the cheap starters, the rookie contracts, and then you can fill out the running back position in a multitude of ways with a committee of veterans with middle round picks. It's a lot easier to do that. And so while I'm confident Love is going to be an impactful player, and I really like his home run ability, he would take so much pressure off of Cam Ward. They'd be able to score faster instead of trying to link together these long drives with all their inconsistent receivers with some of their shaky pass protection. Like, Love is lightning in a bottle. I'm no doubt he would be good for the team. It's just not wise team building. You'd like to be addressing more premium positions with earlier picks.
All right, Ben. Final thing. Dylan Thieneman, Westfield, Indiana, Westfield High School, started at Purdue, ended up at Oregon. He is at least projected to go at some point in round number 1. What's his translation to the NFL level? What's best suited for him?
He's going to be great. He's going to be a real good pro. Talk about a combo safety in the modern NFL. You got to be able to play deep middle. Then you got to be able to get into the box and tackle somebody. You got to be able to go man cover a tight end on one down and then man cover a slot receiver on the next down. Like, we just ask of these safeties so much. Biedemann's got the range and the bulk, rare combination at safety to be able to play deep middle and then be able to play in the box. I think about Trevon Merrick with the Panthers as a comparison for me. He was a pick for the Raiders. Now he went to Carolina on a big deal. He had 10 TFLs for them last year. They built the whole defense around how versatile this guy allowed them to be. And so Thieneman to me is a clear round one player who's going to go to a creative defensive coordinator. Cowboys picking 12 and 20. I think Thieneman is live for them, honestly, at both spots, more likely 20. I would say the Panthers also at 19 are a team to watch for Thieneman. The Vikings at 18 have been a team that everybody talks about because Harrison Smith is a white safety retired and Thieneman's a white safety. So just, throw them back in there and everything will look the same. But they're talking about some of these creative defensive coordinators. They're going to want to use a player like this. And so I expect him to be impactful on the ball in terms of creating turnovers, but then really impressive in the box as well with some of the size that he has. Pick there in the late teens, that should be the spot for him.
That's Ben Solak right there. One final quick thing, too. Daniel Jones coming off an Achilles injury with this team, even with the success that we saw through the first 8+ weeks of the season up until his season was compromised and ended with that injury. Do you believe he can put up similar numbers with this group? Alec Pierce being back, Michael Pittman Jr. being gone. Do you believe in his return once he is done rehabbing from that Achilles injury?
The Colts were on pace to set the record for points per drive last year. You ain't going to do that again. Now, I think that he can have enough of a functional passing game that they can continue to put up league average numbers. I would not say I believe it. I would not say that I am putting my life savings on it. The Daniel Jones, this is going to go great, but I thought the Colts were smart to keep him in the building. I would have looked into Kyler Murray maybe a little more than they did, but I thought they were smart to stay committed to Jones. They got a second year of team control, and then they're going to bring him along hopefully slowly in the rehab process, and we'll see. Perk off the Achilles, the year he came back, had no velocity, could not move. It was really, really rough. The second year after he came back, last season when he played in spot starts for Penix, the ball velocity looked like it returned. He was a lot springer in the pocket. So it just takes a long time to recover from these Achilles injuries. And so hopefully they take the rehab very slow. They're okay starting, Riley Leonard or Anthony Richardson or whoever it is for the first month, 6 weeks of the season. And then you get Jones back. And I think you can still be an above average offense with Jones off the injury.
Are you doing a video in front of your garden right here?
Yeah, I was. I'm trying to do more social video, and I like being outside. I hate being in front of my screen, so I figured, okay, what if I go shoot them outside? Maybe that'll be nice.
Yeah, you got a little garden right there in the background. I see it.
Yeah, we got beets and carrots. Got lettuce coming up. It's getting a little warm out.
Man. It has been a pleasure to speak with you. Thanks for coming on here, and we'll follow your stuff, but really enjoy the insight and even more so the conversation and dialogue. Well done, buddy. Thank you.
Y'all take care. I'll talk to you again soon.
That is at Benjamin Solak. That was good. The self-described dork. I love that. At Benjamin Solak. Podcast 1075thefan.com. My good friend, the icon, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus. He joins us on the other side. 93.5, 1075 The Fan. JMV here for Premier Deck Coating. You want your back deck, your outdoor living space. Maybe it's a pergola, maybe it's a deck, maybe it's an outbuilding. How about a fence? But it's on your property and you want to make it sparkle. You want to make your property look incredible. That's exactly what Premier Deck Coating does. Now, for your deck, you're going to love this. Repelling moisture, adds scratch resistancy, and it just makes everything look better. A 10-year warranty, so that means you don't have to mess around with this every single year to make it look great. It just starts great from, well, the beginning to the finish. Get that free quote today. 317-696-4071. Tell Ron that I sent you. That is Premier Deck Coating. For example, my back deck, Premier Deck Coating. My outbuilding, Premier Deck Coating. Even my brick house has some sides and such to it that I utilize Premier Deck Coating with, and it looks outstanding. Check it out and see what they can do for you. Get that free quote today. Ask for Ron at Premier Deck Coating, 317-696-4071. That's PremierDeckCoating.com. Hey, John, for Premier Weight Loss. You want to embark on your very own weight loss journey? Now is a terrific time. Check out the deals that they have. Now, we're talking GLP-1 weight loss injections with the 2 locations, north side of Indy and in Fishers at Premier Weight Loss. Thomas and Lauren and Samantha and the team up there ready, willing, and able to help. Get started on your weight loss journey today and ask about the cosmetic treatments they also offer. From the Botox to the skin tightening, the electronic toning, they have all that and more. But if you want to feel better, you want to look better, you want to be more healthy, Premier Weight Loss can help you today. That's 317-634. Check that, 317-643-4444. 317-643-4444. Tell them I sent you online. That's PWLND.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Simply put, he is iconic, longtime friend. I miss him a great deal, but man, what an existence. We were talking about this yesterday. And I thought there was nobody better to discuss the legend of the loss on Friday, late Friday, of Bob Kevoian of the Bob and Tom Show. Long time at Q95, a long time with the Colts, and just a great dude, as you well know. Here he is, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus, Dogs on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I thought that Skinner tune would bring you back to the days where you and Matt would be doing a Friday show. Did it feel like that?
You made me smile, brother.
I'm trying.
Smile.
I am trying, man. How you doing, pal?
You know what? I'm doing okay. I've laughed more than I've teared up over the last several days, and a lot of that is just seeing just all the love that's been poured out to my friend, and then you really realize how big an impact he had on so many people.
Yeah, I said this a little bit earlier. In this world of social media, I don't know if I've ever been around a name with that much recognition, that much notoriety, and it is 100%. And it's just like him, just 100% nice things. He was an incredible combination of just all around nice guy and high level talent. It's such a rarity.
I'll tell you what, he was without question one of the most genuine people that I've ever met. He was who he was at all times, and he went out the way he lived his life on his own terms. And I was fortunate enough to get up there Friday afternoon before he passed, and I was able to spend several hours with him the week before, and we had remained pretty close as far as communication over the last, forever. I've known him for 41 years. He walked into the Comedy Connection in summer of '85 when I was on stage, and they asked me to come do their show, and I did their show, and 2 weeks later they hired me, and I was there like 24 and a half years, and Bob and I were thick as thieves. We were instant friends.
So Jimmy Mad Dog Matus kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. When I was talking to you yesterday, I'd heard on Q the dialogue between Tom and Gunner, and Tom had mentioned that you were a part of that was around Bob in those final moments. I'm assuming that is something that will never be forgotten in terms of how impactful it was, and just a flood of memories that you had to have was probably a bit overwhelming in that moment.
Well, you know what? It was wonderful in some regards because his entire family was there. Sons were there, and Bob had two great partners in his life, Tom and then Becky. And Becky and Bob have been married 21 years, and they were a team. They did everything together. And, you start thinking about these things that you don't normally think about. And I just started thinking about caregivers in general and what Becky has been to Bob, especially over the fight with cancer, and so many other people. But to have everybody basically in one room with Bob for several hours on Friday afternoon, and what Becky was going through, and Becky just kept saying, "Look at all the love in this room." And she was hanging on to that. And it was really a very special, sad but special several hours.
It's memories of the legend Bob Kevoian and Jimmy Mad Dog Matus joining us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. So, how much did you know of the Q Zoo started before you joined the guys? And I remember this, dog, as I was in junior high at the time, and I just remember there'd be the senior class and such would be sitting in their cars and listening to the Bob and Tom show on the Q Zoo back then. Before they went into class, it was something like you had to work for it back then too, because it didn't have that certain notoriety and it wasn't really easy to pick up down in southwestern Indiana. But how much did you know of that duo before they saw you on stage doing comedy and tabbed you to be a part of the group?
Well, obviously they got here in '83. And so by the time I met Bob, they were established here. They were building the monster, as it will. And so you knew of Bob and Tom. So as a young guy struggling, trying to do comedy, I was driving a fuel oil truck during the day, tell jokes at night. And for those two, Bob came in on a Wednesday, and I guess he liked the show, so he brought Tom back in on Saturday for the show. One of the 3 shows we did on Saturdays at the Comedy Connection. And then Chick and Patty, who owned the club, introduced us, and then we sat in the back of the room, and they asked me to do their show. And look, without, God putting them in my life, I don't know what would have happened. But I know whatever would have happened to me, it wouldn't have been as much fun as it turned out to be, being able to be part of that show, and more importantly for me, part of their lives.
Yeah, I think about it all the time in terms of what I learned when I was over on Fall Creek. And I've said this before, and I say this all the time on the show. It was learn from you and the parts you took away from them. And certainly in this case, we're talking about Bob Kevoian. It was an incredibly special place, dog. It was.
Yeah, and we were building our families at that time, right? I mean, yeah, we were building a show and following, and one of the best radio stations in the history of stations. And but we were also building our families and our friendships. And so, my boys love Bob, and vice versa. He was at open houses and weddings and all that sort of thing. So he's not just a part of my life, but a part of my family's life and friends, right? So my friends met him, and after Bob retired, he camped in all 48 states, contiguous states, and visited all 50. But and drove his Steely van, as he called it, and Airstream all over the country with Becky, and they documented it. So after he retired, he had a great second career as far as just being able to get out and then meet friends. And so here's how cool he was, over the last bunch of years now since he retired. He was going golfing to Scotland with Johnny Bench. He was hanging out with Marty Brenneman. He was, he had a friendship with Vince Gill. If you met him, you loved him, and he was generous with both his time and his money.
When you bring that up too, the quality he also had is he was an elite level life liver. And those in radio,
Yeah.
you know this as much as I do. When you're able to balance both, your life, your existence, just being human with that, doing what you love to do and what your career is at such an elite level in radio. I don't know how many people have been able to accomplish that, because you're talking about being able to do after your Hall of Fame career what you want in that capacity. And what we do, what we have done, is a rarity, dog.
Oh, it's a rarity. It's a blessing. And the fact that he continued after his retirement to still bless other people's lives through his friendships is remarkable. And he's such a great dude that sometimes you forget how talented he was. I mean, he was a singer-songwriter. He was a great joke writer. And he tagged people's jokes with the funniest line right at the end. He was exceptionally talented, exceptionally loving, and one of the most loyal and genuine people I've ever known.
This is Jimmy Mad Dog Manus. We're talking about certainly Bob Kevoian, the legend, who passed away at the beginning of this past weekend at Dogs on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Before I let you go, I don't know if you have a story or two. If you don't, that's okay. I wanted to make sure you were incredibly comfortable knowing, the 40 years you had as a friend of Bob, and I wanted to make sure you were ready. But if you have a story or two that you would really like to share that is encapsulating, I guess, in this case of Bob Kevoian for you, does anything stand out?
Well, Bob, as most good friends do, we pranked on each other, right? We kidded each other, we joked, and there was one morning, the monster trucks were in town, and Bob got on the phone and figured out a way and asked if they could assemble a monster truck in my front yard in the middle of the night and fire it up at 10 after 6 when they were on the air. They had an engineering van show up at my house so it could be live on the air. They put this entire truck together in my front yard, which was about 10 feet from my bedroom window, and fired it up at 10 after 6 in the morning. And my next door neighbor was a former big-time wrestler, the Hooded Hangman, and Robin came out in his boxer shorts and a shotgun. It was so loud out there, and it was just typical Bob. And that was a lot of work for a 10-minute break, but we did a lot of those sorts of things, but that was just one of them.
Oh my goodness, Jimmy Mad Dog made us with us. I love this because I know what he meant to you, and so many too, but what he meant to you. But it is very, very interesting in what you meant to me over the years. And I've said this all the time. I had completely copied off of every step you've taken over the years because you in this business and your personality and just you as a person, that's what I wanted to be like. And it seems like, in a sense, that's exactly how you felt about your friend Bob Kevoian.
No, that's exactly right. How can I be like Bob? And I think there's even a song like that, "Be Like Bob." But he ran through this life with a passion. He ran through this life as a kind, gentle, caring man. And it's what I want to be.
Man, the perfect blueprint right there was played out. And obviously our thoughts with Becky and the family and friends of Bob Kevoian and our friend Jimmy Mad Dog Manus. Dog is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I miss you, but continue to add plays in the playbook for me, okay, brother?
I sure
Seriously.
will. I appreciate the opportunity. It's hard to talk about my friend in the post sense. It hurts, but here in a second, I'll take a deep breath and I'll be laughing again. I spent most of Friday night when I finally got home watching Bob and Tom clips on YouTube just so I could hear him laugh, and that's a great salve to have, that I can remember that laugh and his touch and his handshake and his hugs. I'm going to miss him.
Put the needle on the vinyl of Shabby Road, and you get a sense of, again, just that moment, how impactful it was. Dog, I appreciate you. We got to get together soon, and I miss you a great deal. It is unfortunate under these circumstances we're having this discussion, but it is also a very good discussion because it feels good that he was a part of our lives and certainly your life as impactful as it has been. And thanks for what you have done and continue to do too, my brother. We miss you a great deal.
Man. Thank you.
You got it. Dog, appreciate you. Jimmy Mad Dog made us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. It's a true story. He has been, to me, as impactful as Bob was to him. It is really unique how that works. Because I look at a lot of the things that I do, and I do it in terms of how I've always wanted to be like Dog. And he just talked about how he did the same, while also just being cool and human and fun and understanding. And as Dog mentioned, there will never, ever be anybody like Bob Kevoian. The great Bob Kevoian. That's Jimmy Mad Dog Matus and his thoughts. Quick break. We'll come back. Stephen Holder, draft, Colts, and more. Top of the hour. Thank you, Dog, for that. That was really good. 93.5, 107.5, The Fan. Hey, John here for WeGrowHairIndy.com. That's 317-522-2995. WeGrowHairIndy.com. His name is Darren Andrews. I want to give a shout out to Mackenzie. Mackenzie went to work on my hair last week. Great hairstylist over there, too. They do that work for you. But maintaining your real hair growth is what I'm doing right now with the boosters at We Grow Hair Indy. That's all a part of it, too. Artist Robotic FUE, laser hair therapy, and the boosters to maintain is all that you get to maintain that real hair growth with WeGrowHairIndy.com. Make that call today if you want your real hair back and continue the real hair growth. One place to go, Darren Andrews, 317-522-2995. That's WeGrowHairIndy.com. Hey, John here for the Low T Center. So, have you been feeling exhausted, maybe lost your sex drive? Have you noticed that? Book a free testosterone test at Low T Center. No risk, no commitments, just the answer. So, you want to start testosterone therapy, don't settle for one-size-fits-all doses from your doctor or pay hundreds out of pocket at TRT franchises. No, Low T Center can get insurance covered. TRT customized to your body for maximum effectiveness and safety. Low T Center has served over 500,000 patients since 2009 and continues to lead the industry in TRT. So, this month, enjoy a free men's T-test and discounted peptides while supplies last. Here's the advice. Head to lowtcenter.com and sign up for that free T-test today. That's lowtcenter.com.
The Ride with JMV.
He's my best friend. He's my pal. He's my homeboy, my rotten soldier. He's my sweet cheese, my good time boy.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Jimmy Mad Dog Matus, podcast 1075thefan.com. I spent, 9 years, I think, over in that building. Started part-time on the weekends. And, obviously I didn't do much of anything with the Bob and Tom show, but certainly knew them and knew them well. And I kind of kept to myself for the most part with the sports talk station over there. And the guy I talked to the most, we just had in conversation, and that was Dog. But clearly, just going all the way back to the Bob and Tom show being such a staple as it started in 1983 with the Q Zoo, and then what it grew into. But more so than anything else, just the impact of Bob Kevoian being an incredibly nice guy. Rarely will you ever find anybody that has both of those aspects, just elite level talent, while also being an elite level human being. And a great dude. And we celebrate. I mentioned this on Saturday. And that's something Dog talked about when Dog was in the room, and they were standing around Bob, the immediate family and friends right there, singing Golden Slumbers by the Beatles. And that's how we started Saturday night. For Bob and for Bob's family and all of our friends. But it just goes to show you with the reaction, as Dog mentioned, just how impactful he was. Again, as an elite level Hall of Fame talent on the radio and in life. Pretty amazing. If you missed any of that, Jimmy Mad Dog Matus, podcast 1075thefan.com. Other side, Stephen Holder of ESPN is going to join us. I've got some stuff to give away as well. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John, here for Rhino Shield. Rhino Shield is incredible. Never paint your house again. Go with Rhino Shield, a ceramic coating that is specifically formulated for the Indiana climate. Right here. Very unique, right? You're going to get an incredible guarantee. You're going to have over 1,000 colors to choose from, easily right there. And as I mentioned, that 25-year transferable warranty. So you need to get started on this right away and take advantage of the deal that they're offering with me involved. That's Rhino Shield at 888 Rhino 41 for a limited time. Get 15% off the regular price when you mention my name. Tell them that you heard it right here. That's 888 Rhino 41. That's 15% off the regular price by mentioning my name. 888 Rhino 41. Check it out today. RhinoShieldIN.com. Residential and commercial. Don't paint, no vinyl. Go Rhino and never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
The Ride with JMV.
Say, man, you got a joint? No, not on me, man. It'd be a lot cooler if you did.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Talk with Kenny. Think very highly of Kenny, not only me personally, but organizationally. And I know the city feels the same way. And look, at the end of the day, talking to him, he just felt like it was time for a change. Nothing much more than that. And because of our respect level for Kenny, we said, okay. Not always easy, especially when you get a pillar that's been a pillar, not only on our team, but in the community. And I think most of you know my relationship with him. It's close. And so those are not always easy conversations, but they were respectful and good, and we'll see how it works out. Okay, I have really nothing else. You got it all right there. I don't have anything really else on it.
Chris Ballard earlier today at his pre-draft presser. Hour number 3 of the show. Thank you for being a part of that. If you've missed any of it so far, I will recap that coming up. But on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline from ESPN, ESPN.com, Stephen Holder joins us. All right, so is there any reason to believe that Kenny wanting to go someplace else tells us all we need to know about this team and his belief in this team being able to win at a higher clip next year? Or is it more about what took place with Lou Anarumo as the defensive coordinator this past year? Where would your lean be right now, Stephen, if you had to choose?
No, my sense is that this has more to do with Kenny and his situation rather than anything to do with the franchise generally. Now, I do think that I know that, look, he wants, like everybody else, he wants to have a chance to win something in his career. And I'm not saying that's why he's doing it, but it's a byproduct of this, like wherever he ends up, he wants that to be a team that is in the mix for something next season. But I think that is just a natural progression to, the next stop. I don't think it's a motivating factor for wanting to get out. So if you ask me specifically what is motivating this, look, everybody's dancing around whatever it is. The key here, I think, is that, like, no one will say it, including Kenny, nor Chris Ballard. But I think there's a couple things. Number one, he's 30 years old. They have talked about wanting to get faster and younger. He is neither. Okay. And then he has not had the sort of impact maybe we thought he might have with Lou Anarumo. We thought that he was going to be unleashed and be the Kenny Moore of old, like you saw with Matt Eberflus back in the day. The truth is, I don't think the Colts believe he can be that guy at this age. And that's a tough pill to swallow for everybody involved. And I think Kenny maybe wants to go somewhere where maybe they can give him a chance to be that guy. So we'll see if he can find it.
I asked this a little bit earlier of Mike DiRocco. He didn't know, and I don't know if you do, because I don't know how much contemplation you've had on the subject alone. But is there a quality fit where he can realize what he is looking for, you think, out there? And would that come with a deal, or is this ultimately going to end with Kenny being cut and then just being picked up as a free agent?
So I think just looking at this objectively, I think when you talk about his salary and cap situation, it's around $10 million for 2026. If I am a team that is interested in Kenny Moore and you tell me I can have him for pick X, it's not just that pick that I'm giving you. I'm taking on $10 million salary for a 30-year-old cornerback who's soon to be 31. That's not that enticing. And it's nothing personal. It's just that's just how teams are going to look at it, right? I think he still has value, and I think the NFL respects Kenny Moore. Don't get me wrong. But I think that's a reality that he is going to have to face here in this effort to get traded, and it's going to be difficult, I think. I think it's going to be not a slam dunk that they find a deal, find a taker. And in that instance, that they do not, Ballard didn't say it, but I did try to get an answer out of him, but he certainly left the interpretation, or let us interpret the idea that he would give him his release if they can't find a deal.
It's Stephen Holder who joins us, and he and Anthony Richardson, because they've requested trades, will not be a part of any of these workouts, correct?
Yeah, I mean, as of right now, they are not attending. Obviously, it's all voluntary, so there's nothing anybody can do to sort of hold their feet to the fire here. But they would normally be there. There's no question. I mean, Kenny Moore has always attended. Anthony Richardson has always attended. So yeah, this is it's clearly a reaction to the current situation. I would say this: I don't think it's acrimonious. I think in both parties, in the situation with both parties, there has been communication with the Colts front office, and everyone understood that this was going to be the case. So that at least shows us that there's nothing untoward here. It's just the situation is what it is.
So, what is your feel on what ends up happening with Richardson? I think Kenny's going to end up someplace else. There's no doubt. I just don't think there's going to be any compensation involved. Nor do I think they're going to get compensation for Richardson. So, what do you think happens to him?
I will say this. I'm not saying I'm surprised that they haven't found a deal, but I did think there would be a little more traction just because he's a quarterback and he's 24 years old. Look, you're going to see quarterbacks drafted in this draft who are awful. Okay? Let's just call it what it is. I don't mean early, but I mean like on, late on day 2 and certainly on day 3, there are going to be quarterbacks who are drafted who are not going to amount to anything in the NFL. I think we can all agree on that, right? If you are one of those teams that's taking a flyer on one of those guys, what is the point of that? As opposed to giving a 6th-round pick or something to the Colts and say, all right, we'll take a shot on Anthony Richardson. So I don't know. I mean, I don't think the guy is like that radioactive. I mean, it's a strange thing to me, which is why I wonder if I think the Colts have actually been their worst enemy here in terms of Richardson, because they have very clearly told the world, without saying anything, they have told the world, we hate you, in effect, right? I mean, they have bent over backwards to not have him as part of any of their plans, right? So, I mean, if you're a team that's out there and you're looking at this situation, my interpretation is they don't want that kid. So why should I give you a draft pick for him? You've made it very clear that he doesn't have a place in your franchise. Of course, now Ballard now is starting to sort of, I think, change that tune a little bit and trying to say, well, there could be a place for him here. Like we may keep him. And he's trying to sort of, I think, change that messaging. But I think the message has already been absorbed by other teams as far as I'm concerned.
Seems like you get two situations. I know that they're drastically different between Kenny Moore and Anthony Richardson, but one, it seemed like that they're trying to handle in a correct couth type of way, and then the other, they what the hell? It's kind of done with it. It's weird, right? I guess that's what you get between Kenny Moore II and Anthony Richardson in terms of what they're trying to do. Because I think you could do the same thing to Kenny Moore, could you not? If you weigh, because it seems like that they're done with him as much as he's done with them. To me, would you agree?
Well, I don't know that, because I think what I'm hearing here is that Kenny came to them and said, I want to talk about this, and out of respect for Kenny Moore, Chris Ballard is saying, I will give you what you want because you've earned that. That's how I'm interpreting this. Now, that doesn't mean that he was going to be, sort of that he was going to be unleashed and be this, sort of central guy on their defense this year. I think there's a scenario where Kenny Moore was going to play fewer snaps. I really believe that. And I think the Justin Wally return has a lot to do with it. I think Lou Anarumo, he's a very, he's a very strong-willed guy. And if he had some other ideas for Kenny Moore, that may not have gone over well with Kenny. I don't know what that would have been, right? I'm not saying that was the case. I'm sort of trying to find explanations here, right? Because I don't think Kenny Moore just woke up one morning and said, you know what? No, I'm done.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like something prompted.
But they're handling that differently than they would the Richardson thing here, though. That's what I'm talking about. That's what it sounds like to me, too.
Well, I think they are giving Kenny Moore the respect as a veteran who's done a lot for the team and saying, we'll accommodate you. With Anthony Richardson, they said, well, you go find the trade, and if you find it, let's see what happens. That's kind of what happened there. Like, are the Colts out there actively shopping Anthony Richardson? I don't know that they are. I mean, the world knows that he's available, so I mean, they don't have to shop him. But I mean, are they actively out there trying to make that deal happen? I'm not so sure. I guess that would be the difference, I suppose, in how they're handling it. They're not like bending over backwards to accommodate Anthony Richardson, whereas they maybe are with Kenny Moore.
Yeah, Stephen Holder of ESPN's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. How has this offseason gone for the Colts in your estimation up until this point as we embark upon wherever they select coming up in this draft? As of right now, that starts at number 47 in round number 2. But how's this offseason gone in your belief?
So I think there's two ways to look at it. They certainly retained the two most important guys, the quarterback and the number 1 wide receiver. Now, that's not a small thing because those two guys matter a lot. But the question is that just standing in place? That doesn't move the ball forward, right? So I think if you're asking from the perspective of improvement, that's where this becomes a harder question. I mean, they've had departures, frankly, as opposed to impact additions. And when Chris Ballard was basically asked a version of that question earlier today, I thought it was interesting that his answer in large part was, we are banking on development of our returning players. Now, it sounds like a cop-out answer, and it kind of is a cop-out answer. It's also true, right? Like, another year in the system, second year in the defense, like all that is true to some degree. And you do get better, with time on task. That's true. And players develop from year to year to year. That is true. But I also think that, you are asking maybe to be disappointed if you only rely on that as your team getting better. I mean, you're for your team, for that to happen. Let's put it this way. I'm sort of jumbling my words here. Let's put it this way. If you're telling me we're going to stand pat and with the team that we have, we're going to keep developing these guys and they're going to improve and be better next year, well, then they had to be really good the year before so that you can say if they take another step, they're going to be really good and we're going to be in the mix. So then you have to ask yourself, does that describe the Colts of 2025, right? I guess it depends on when you're asking the question, right? So that's the complexity of that question and answering it as well.
Yeah, I feel like that there's
a leap of faith.
Yeah,
it's a leap of faith. Yeah,
I feel like that this whole situation right now, and obviously it's to be determined until they start playing. But you kind of got a fan base, and this is something that I follow all the time with the level of interest with the fans. It seems like, I know they don't have a first rounder, and last year Tyler Warren was a legit expectation that had everybody excited. That was a big-time need, and you don't have that going into this draft, that thought in mind. And there's no pick in the first round because of the Sauce Gardner deal. It just seems like that there's a lack of juice and there's a lack of thought. We've still got fingers crossed and a lot of hope. And I think that most right now believe it's inevitable that they won't live up to those expectations. It's just weird. Sometimes you get juiced up by an offseason, and even with bringing back the quarterback and the wide receiver, it doesn't seem like you have that here.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, oftentimes, what happens in an off season sort of sets the tone for the expectations, which is what you just said, right? It's setting the tone for the expectations of the season. And they have had a very muted offseason, especially with the lack of the first-round pick. I mean, I've talked less about the Colts draft this year than maybe I have in a very long time, and so I think that has a lot to do with it. There's just sort of this muted – they've had this muted offseason, and, that doesn't get people juiced up for what's to come in September. Now, I would say going into last season, we didn't have a ton of expectations, right? And then they come out like gangbusters. They're 7-1 to start. I don't know. So it's hard to know what to make sense of in an off season because, sometimes it doesn't necessarily it doesn't have congruence to what you actually see in the season. But that being said, you are sort of looking at a couple of things here that you have to take into account. The Daniel Jones injury. Now, Alec Pierce has an ankle that's been worked on. I don't know that it's going to be a problem. I'm just saying, these are the guys who are supposed to make this happen, and now they as well have obstacles that they're trying to overcome. I still think they have a lot to work with on offense. I mean, Jonathan Taylor still exists. I like the offensive line. Tyler Warren, it can only get better, which is scary, frankly, if you play defense. So they got a lot to work with there, but the bar is set high. They got to return to the level they played at last year to make this happen, and that is a very high level. So we'll see.
How do you think they will approach this draft, and do you think they're capable of it seems like they kind of have to right now, find some guys, because I'm thinking edge and you're thinking linebacker, and some dudes you could implement quickly?
So the first thing I'll tell you is I'm not a betting man because I don't have enough money for that. But I will say this. I'm thinking the odds are 75-25. They're trading out of 47, number 47. And here's why. Chris Ballard effectively said call me to those other teams. He effectively said, call me. And he said, in fact, that there's already been chatter about trading in the second round. And, we'll see. It's very early, but he's looking. And they actually could play this well if they're smart. You trade out of 47. If you trade down and don't go too far, you can pick up like an extra third or maybe a late second, whatever it is. If you do that, now you've given yourself a little ammunition. I think right now they're in a bad spot. They've got number 47. You can still get a really good player, no question. But I just don't love the fact that they don't have enough picks. I mean, they have one pick in each round between 2 and 6. They only have multiple picks in one round, which is the 7th round, which who cares, right? It's the 7th round. So, that's effectively a college free agent. So they got to find a way to add some picks. And Chris Ballard said today, he's like, I want to have as many shots at the board as possible. I agree with that approach. I think that's how this business works, right? I mean, the draft is a 50-50 proposition at best with each guy in terms of whether he's going to pan out. So the more shots you have, the more opportunity for success that you have. And the Colts, they don't have enough shots right now. So they got to find some more ammunition and take some more shots at the board. And I think they will.
A lot of shots at the board right there. Another veteran presence in quarterback, because, you're thinking no Anthony Richardson clearly as it looks, and Riley Leonard is going to be the guy for the foreseeable future. And, you're trying to get the Achilles injury of Daniel Jones back. Hopefully that is incredibly timely. So what do they do here veteran-wise? They're going to secure somebody, in your opinion, here relatively soon?
No, I think you have to have a serious conversation about this, and the fact that they haven't done that, I'm mildly surprised by it. I think that Riley Leonard is going to be your number one quarterback, probably heading into training camp even, as Daniel Jones is still on a pitch count, right? There's a very plausible world where Daniel Jones is on PUP to start training camp. I don't think it's the end of the world. I'm just telling you that could happen, right? And so is Riley Leonard going to eat all those snaps? I don't know. Are they keeping Anthony Richardson? Maybe, but certainly we can't answer that question right now. So I think that's part of the problem is they're going to have to, at some point, let's get to the draft and see how this goes. But they're going to, at some point, have to decide how they're going to proceed at quarterback. And I don't think you can wait until like the end of the summer to do it. I think that decision has to be made pretty soon. And because here's why. I mean, the movement is going to happen now. You know, if some team drafts a quarterback and has a veteran available, that's going to happen now in the next week or two, right? If you wait till later in the offseason to make that decision, it becomes a tougher scenario for you. So I think if they're going to consider a move at quarterback, I would, if it's me, I'm handling that sooner than later. So we'll see what happens. But it becomes difficult to make that call when you don't know what the status of things is with Anthony Richardson. So I think it's a convoluted situation they got to figure out. I think we've been kind of putting it on the back burner. At least they seem to be putting it on the back burner. But I think you have to put it more to the front burner pretty soon.
Completely agree. Alec Pierce in the 3-month recovery time of the cleanup surgery. All good there?
I guess.
Yeah, I know. It doesn't sound good there. I can tell you 3 months. That's that's missing a lot too, is it not? Or missing some time at least with a new contract and getting ready for a questionable season.
Yeah, I mean, it's not ideal for sure. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm worried about it, but I think that you definitely don't feel great about it. Look, I mean, if you are the Colts, you want that guy to really be ready to take on this new role. Okay, and I'm not saying he's going to go from, what he had 40 some odd catches this year. I'm not saying he's going from that to like 100 catches or something, but he's going to have a bigger role. There's no question about that. He better, of course, right, with the money they're paying him. So he's got to be ready to handle that. And there are going to be things that they ask him to do that maybe he hasn't done as much in the past. So having a good, productive offseason would be great for Alec Pierce. That's not going to happen. On the other hand, I don't hate that they handled it this way because, you don't want to get into the season. Pierce wanted to play through it, was willing to play through it again. I would say maybe this is the right call because you don't want to get into the season and then maybe that thing gets worse. It never gets better, right? It gets worse, and then his play diminishes, and then everybody loses, right? Now, Alec Pierce looks bad. The Colts look bad for paying him. Maybe the quarterback is not as successful because his top receiver is not himself. That's not good for anybody. So he's young. Let him get the surgery, get cleaned up, and hopefully back to 100% pretty soon.
DeForest Buckner, what's making good progress mean with the neck?
I don't know. Last I saw DeForest Buckner, I did not feel great about what I saw. Now that was right on the heels of that surgery, but he had one of those Pat McAfee neck braces on. Did you see that today?
I did, yeah.
He's so ridiculous.
and then DeForest is not faking it either. This is legit. Yeah.
Right. So, and I mean, couldn't like really turn his neck, and I was like, look, it might have looked worse than it was, but at the same time, I think that DeForest was pretty transparent when he last talked about it at the end of last season. He was pretty transparent in that, this thing is not a small deal, and that he had a lot of deliberation about whether he should or shouldn't play. If you recall, back in December, he came back and then kind of re-aggravated that thing and had to get the surgery, if you recall. So it was a really delicate injury from the way he described it. And he was only, I think, able to come back for that one game and then needed the surgery after that. So, we'll see. We will hear from him tomorrow. We're supposed to hear from him tomorrow. So that will clear up, hopefully, some of the questions on DeForest Buckner. And I do give him credit because he tends to be pretty honest about how he's doing physically. So I'm looking forward to hearing from him.
Wohler Wally, rehab ending, correct, for both? I think a Liz Frank and an ACL situation?
Yeah, they're on the home stretch. So, will they be completely unleashed in off-season workouts? I don't know that answer, but they are on the home stretch. They're doing a lot physically. They are doing some pretty aggressive stuff physically, from what I understand. So that's good news. I don't know if you were going to ask about Spencer Schrader.
Yeah, I was, because they have the nugget of the kicker too that I like a great deal. So I kind of dig the nugget of a human.
Yeah. So you had so Schrader had he had the knee injury.
Yeah.
He's all the way back. It sounds like Ballard said that he kicked a 53-yard field goal at the facility the other day. So that's pretty encouraging. I mean, I wouldn't say that kicker battles get me out of bed in the morning, but the Colts will have a pretty interesting kicker battle. Okay, so that's at least something they got going for them.
I'm a groupie. Remember that.
Groupie's got a hell of a leg, man. Groupie has a hell of a leg.
Especially for a little nugget of a human being like that, too. I love it.
I think he's less I think Groupie might be less predictable, in terms of like kick to kick.
Yes.
But in terms of like, if you need a big one, Groupie's probably the guy, which is funny because nothing about him is big, but anyhow.
I know, man. It's me. This conversation's mean. We've gone mean-spirited right down the toilet.
Listen, you're not alone, man. Okay, I was in the locker room last year when he started meeting his new teammates, and even they were like, "You're kidding, right?"
Yeah.
Wait, what? That's the guy? They were stunned, just like you were.
It's Stephen Holder of ESPN at ESPN.com. I'm a groupie with Stephen here on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. I appreciate it, man. We'll catch up with you coming up next week as well and see what happens in this draft later on this weekend. Thanks, buddy.
All right, you got it, brother.
It's Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group Hotline. Hey, by the way, James, you know this to be true, right? When you tell me to break, it's just a suggestion.
Oh, yeah. I'm aware.
I hope you understand that. I see kind of your look in there. When you tell me to break, it is just, and if they don't know that down the hall, I don't care.
I'm very aware of this. Don't worry, man.
That is that. They can, I don't care because they're not sitting here. But no, I get it. So it's just a suggestion. Hey, speaking of that, Brian Haynes versus Bama fan. This is something we may have to dig into a little bit later on. I didn't know if that was front burner today, but it's interesting to say the least. I'll get to that coming up hopefully before the end of the show. We have tickets James does to give away as well. Sit tight, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, JMV for Love, Heating, and Air. That's John and Chris Love. Get that system checked. We're up and down and up and down. So who went back to the red? So we went to the blue, which means cooling with your system. And now we went back to the red because it was cold. And then we're going to go back to the blue. That can hinder the effectiveness, the way that it's supposed to work of your system. Get it checked up today with the experts at Love Heating and Air. 317-353-2141. Let's just say you need a repair. Here's where you use my name for the action. If you say, if you need a repair, JMV sent me. $144 off the service fee. How about that with my friends at Love Heating and Air? You need a repair? $144 off the service fee. If you say that I sent you. That's Love Heating and Air, 317-353-2141. That's love-hvac.com today. Hey, John here for the District Tep. You got two locations, Northside Clearwater Crossing, downtown Indianapolis. It's going to serve you well. I'm telling you, You're going to go and you're going to get all the visuals, TVs everywhere. So you're not going to miss a second of whatever you want to check out, too. Plus, you, the family, whatever, you are going to love the fact you have damn good food. You have happy hour specials. And really, it's a destination on the north side and then downtown as well. Any downtown stuff that's going on, the District Tap is right there, a block from the field house and on the north side of Clearwater Crossing. Good for you, good for the family. And by the way, on the north side, Sammy, the server is awesome. Ask for Sammy. Ask about the happy hour specials going on right now. The District Tab, Northside Clearwater Crossing, downtown Indy. For that, the live music, the event space, the private rooms, and more for whatever parties and gatherings you want to have. That's thedistricttab.com.
The Ride with JMV.
If somebody gets in your face and calls you a I want you to be nice.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, so who wants to go see Satch Vai? Well, Joe Satriani and Steve Vai. Rockin' show. Everwise Amphitheater, White River State Park. This is May the 9th. Number 30 on the text line. It would be swell of you to be a part of this right now. Number 30 is going to go May the 9th. That is a Saturday night. Not too far away, by the way. What is that? 3 weeks, maybe? 2 weeks?
It is 2 weeks from this Saturday.
Yeah. Sats Vibe Band, number 30 on the text line. 317-239-1070. You will go. Let's see it here. Who wants to go? That's going to be a rocker. You want to be a rocker? Stephen Holder, Podcast 1075thefan.com. Somebody had just said, and I answered it this way. I feel bad about it on the text line. I think it was Blake that said, JMV, can we switch up the questions for the draft a little bit? I think you ask the same thing every time. What the hell else are you going to ask? I don't think there's much more of a need. So you're probably not going to keep 47. You're probably going to trade down. And that's why I brought up at the start of the show, you're either caught between a lack of interest, and this is a lack of interest in a Colts draft around here that I have not seen forever, it seems. So is it because there's no first rounder, or because this is just where your interest level might be with this team, with this organization right now? So I'll tell you what, you can answer Blake's question for him right here. I will say this, that Ben Solak a little bit earlier, I thought broke it down about as well as you could with a variety of names. And that wasn't even so much about the draft right there. That was about Chris Ballard in the press conference earlier today and the players and the needs and the offseason that has been, I would have to think, a great deal underwhelming for everybody. At least, again, that's the way that it seems. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I am playing the role of curmudgeon. But I'm telling you, I've been around here long enough to know that's exactly how it feels right now. So certainly feel free to answer that question. Thank you, Blake, for that. Yeah, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, too. And I'm going to see if James can track down Josh Pate. I've not been a tremendous follower of Josh Pate's college football show. Somebody can get me up to date. I believe that he started out very SEC-oriented. Not a believer in IU, maybe not even a believer in the Big Ten. And obviously now you have to be a believer in IU because of what they did, certainly in the SEC, what they did to the beloved Alabama Crimson Tide in the Rose Bowl, for example. You know, the work that they did. But I don't know if you saw this, a little bit of back and forth with Brian Haynes, the IU defensive coordinator, and Alabama fans. Took place over the weekend. I kind of want to get into this with this Josh Pate. I just don't know. I don't watch or listen, so I don't know exactly how people take the guy. But it seems some good stuff. You know, kind of like, the Alabama, Ty Simpson suggesting that he had IU's. He knew what was coming. They got absolutely depantsed in the Rose Bowl. They didn't know anything was coming except getting the crap knocked out of them. And I don't think there's been any response after that. It's just been basic Alabama fans in response to Brian Haynes. But it is quality stuff. So maybe Josh Pate in the future. This is from Jeremiah. JMV, your son Blake throwing shade about your draft questions. Now, this is a different Blake. I got news for you. I think I'm kind of out. I think I'm out. And that's what you get with the Sauce Gardner deal. There's no, like, we endless about the opportunity at Tyler Warren and it being just a tremendous need. But since that point in time, there are so many questions, and a lot of which either haven't been answered or can't be answered. Thank you. Jamie writes this is the first draft in a long time that I will not be watching. Zero excitement. I don't need to watch Ballard draft depth guys. Joseph Fitton Faust, you are not a curmudgeon, buddy, just a realist. I think I know, have a good feeling what is going on. JMV, I am completely apathetic to all things Colts at this moment. I don't think you're alone. On 420, Nick B at 317-239-1070 references Matthew McConaughey's line from Dazed and Confused. You got a joint? It'd be a lot cooler if you did, I believe, is the line that he's talking about. Hey, man, you got a joint? It'd be a lot cooler if you did. Pretty good stuff. And by the way, I didn't want to, you guys came up with the actual line from John Bender from Breakfast Club. Do you have that? Here's the John Bender line from 1985 in Breakfast Club on this 420.
So, Ahab, can I buy my doobage?
I completely messed that up. So, you say so Ahab or yo Ahab?
So Ahab, can I bum my doobage?
Yeah, I completely messed that one up.
You got doobage, right?
I did get doobage. Doobage is the key in there, too. It's nothing without doobage. I think I got the Dazed and Confused one. I think I got the Wooderson word right, though.
I believe you did, yes.
Doobage. That's beautiful. Hey, getting back to my Stanley Cup playoff game one hockey take, Litzy writes this. Yes, John, special teams play a big part of who wins in the playoffs. Playoff overtime is way different. It basically is a 20-minute periods and then next goal wins. And basically in that one yesterday I watched, and anybody that was going to get into a power play with the Canadians and the Lightning was going to end up scoring during the power play. No question about it. JMV, so I'm a huge Colts fan. Lots of fans excited, still excited for next year. Sauce is worth it and will prove it. That's the anti to our opinion so far today. JMV, I'm just done with Ballard calling the shots. He's under 50% winning general manager. That's from James. Beautiful. JMV, so the quarterback has an Achilles. The best wide receiver has a bum ankle. One of the best linemen has a neck injury. Secondary, multiple injuries. Is this bad assessments of player health, or do we need to look at this even more? Nate, thank you. Yeah, I'm not trying to get you apathetic about it. I just have a feel about where we are in all this right now. And that's where we're posted up. And think about this, too. We're living in a world without the Pacers in the postseason. Now, we'll also say that you have the spring game coming up on Thursday with IU football. I can't remember a time when the excitement has been that high. And normally you're thinking about the little 5 weekend and all fun that's going to be had down there. But now all of a sudden, the spring, with good reason, the spring game holds that high level of importance. His name is Josh Pate. See if you can reel him in, James, even though I've really never heard anything he's done, but people are commenting on it. What the hell? Hey, JMV, by the way, I gave up my Colts season tickets after years. I'm not going to be watching the draft. Adam. Part of me, though, I feel good because there's a little bit of balance. Somebody says that they're still down with the program right here. They're at least waiting and see while you're down with the program. 3 NBA Game 2s later on tonight. Raptors, Cavaliers, 7 o'clock. 8 o'clock for the Hawks and the Knicks. Timberwolves and the Nuggets at 10:30. That's the Cavaliers one up in that one. The Knicks have that advantage, winning Game 1, and the Nuggets won Game 1 out west between those two teams. Reds and Rays tonight. Reds, of course, red hot right now. Hang the banner in the month of April. I'm okay. Reds fans, you can celebrate that. You're allowed. Phillies, Cubs, also later on tonight. Cardinals in Miami against the Marlins at 6:40. Quick break. We'll come back. Final segment for you. Set you up for tomorrow, the rest of the week as well. Don't go anywhere. The AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live on what has been a very interesting Monday, including the thoughts of our good friend Jimmy Mad Dog Matus. The podcast, 1075thefan.com. Back with you. Final time next. Premier Deck Coating. Ron at Premier Deck Coating, awaiting your call. 317-696-4071. Get that free quote today. All right, your outdoor living space becomes even more prominent when the temperatures warm up, too. You spend a lot of time out there. Make it look its best with Premier Deck Coating on your deck. It helps repel moisture, adds scratch resistancy, and it simply put makes your deck look outstanding. Virtually any color imaginable, and you can customize your space to exactly what you want. Plus, they back it with a 10-year warranty. So you don't have to worry about staining or painting every couple of years. They've got your back with that warranty. That is Premier Deck Coating. Call for that free quote today. Ask for Ron. Tell him I sent you. 317-696-4071. 317-696-4071. That's PremierDeckCoating.com.
The Ride with JMV.
JMV does not suck at all.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
You have a confused look on your face.
This is Days of Our Lives.
According to Spotify, this is the Days of Our Lives theme. I was wondering if this is maybe one of those.
It sounds like somebody else is doing the cover right there.
Well, when you give me 30 seconds.
Yeah, I know. I gave you 30 seconds to do it. This is McDonald Carey, and these are the Days of Our Lives. So, Days of Our Lives, I was a big fan growing up. the soap opera Days of Our Lives, which was on NBC. I think it started in 1966, and until maybe 3 years ago, it moved to Peacock. Days of Our Lives. And I mostly watched it back when I was in elementary and junior high. And the reason why my grandma watched it. And then we started when Hope, Kristen Alfonso, made her first appearance, I want to say back in 1983. Maybe it was 84. I think it was 83. That's when we really started watching it. The dudes did, because she was incredibly hot. Still is. But sad news regarding Days of Our Lives. I was not so much a watcher in my 20s when it was on, but in the 90s versions of Days of Our Lives, Austin Reed, that character was introduced. Patrick Muldoon was the actor that played that role. Patrick Muldoon played football at USC and got his start, if you remember, on Saved by the Bell, playing the role of Jeff. And Jeff was notable for breaking up Kelly Kapowski and Zach. So Zach Morris and Kelly Kapowski broken up by Jeff. Now, he was just a couple of episodes and then gone, but then he ended up getting that role on Days of Our Lives. He was in Starship Troopers, a major motion picture. Patrick Muldoon, at the age of 57, passed away yesterday of what is reported as a heart attack. And it just looks like he had it all, the looks and getting older. And there was a video of him, I think he and his family doing their own rendition of Oasis's Don't Look Back in Anger. 57 years of age, had a heart attack. And Patrick Muldoon, I don't know how much you knew of him as an actor, but again, was a part of the USC football program and then ended up doing some acting. And just really right after graduation, I think, when he got out, around 1990 or so, transitioned into an actor. And then got those particular roles, which for many out there, especially that, and we can put it as it is, Saved by the Bell was iconic. Campy, yes, but iconic indeed. And he had a significant, if not short, role as Jeff on Saved by the Bell. Patrick Muldoon was 57 years old. And actually, I think that was late last night, reported earlier today. His passing of a heart attack. All right, a little bit earlier on the show, Stephen Holder, podcast 1075thefan.com, getting a lot of input in on Josh Pate, ball knower, best college football show out there. But every time you say you don't know who he is or you don't listen to his stuff, lowers your chances of getting him on the show. No one loves Josh Pate more than Josh Pate. All right, that's the way I like it right there, the biz. Thank you. DJ writes this: in celebration of today, JMV, Barry is showing his face again. That's Bluff Road Barry, our groundhog on the south side. You can see him. 420. And there's Bluff Road Barry. Thank you, DJ. Hey, I think that Josh Pate is I bet he sounds terrific. He'll sound really good on this show. Great. Stephen Older. Ben Solak was awesome regarding the draft. That podcast, 1075thefan.com. DeRocco a little bit earlier, too. And our good friend and the iconic Jimmy Mad Dog Matus on the life and the impact of his good friend Bob Kevoian, who passed away over the weekend. Sky Point to Bob. And a big thanks to Dog. It's great to have Dog back on the show. Just wish it was under better circumstances, but to celebrate an iconic life, Jimmy Mad Dog made us. Podcast 1075thefan.com. James, thank you. Thank you all for listening today. We'll do it again coming up tomorrow at 3. 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Have a great night.